In the charged instant of the boardroom's renewal, I faced my former opponent, Marcus, his smoldering gaze igniting a forbidden spark that blurred the line between rivalry and something dangerously alluring. As a surge of adrenaline racked my body, I realized with trembling certainty that forging this fragile alliance would force a family peacemaking so perilous it might just unravel everything I once held dear. Chapter 1: Homecoming Sparks. The evening light slanted through the tall windows of the ancestral home, bathing everything in a muted amber glow. As Elena stepped through the grand doorway, the familiar murmur of overlapping conversations and the scent of old wood and spiced food stirred memories both tender and bitter. After years of brewing tension and half-spoken apologies, her senses were overwhelmed by the weight of a reunion that promised closure yet threatened to unearth old ghosts. Moving in measured steps along the polished corridor, Elena's mind whirled with conflicting emotions. Every smile, every casual hug, and every sidelong glance served as gentle reminders of her turbulent past, a childhood marked by both the warmth of family bonds and the sting of unresolved grief. She carried with her scars from broken promises and a fractured family history, a mosaic of dreams deferred amid relentless pursuit of success. Yet tonight, among the familiar faces, there was also a quiet longing, the desire to reconnect and to mend the relationships that time and ambition had warped. Seated in the spacious drawing room, surrounded by family members mingling with their own blend of laughter and hushed words, Elena was an island of composure amid emotional tempests. Every heart present had a story that contributed to the family's intricate tapestry. She caught glimpses of her brother, whose gentle smile belied years of silent suffering, and her mother, whose eyes shimmered with both hope and caution. The reunion was more than a gathering. It was a tentative step toward unity, a shared attempt to correct past mistakes, even as new challenges loomed along the horizon. Yet beneath the layers of familial affection and shared history, a subtle tension simmered. Whispers and sidelong glances alluded to rivalries not entirely left behind. As Elena navigated the crowded room, her gaze traveled across groups until it landed on a familiar figure, the nefarious yet intriguing presence of Victor. His aura was unmistakable, a mix of calculated charm and lingering defiance that had once made him a formidable opponent in the boardrooms and battlefields of business. In that moment, an unbidden chill ran down her spine as he regarded her with a complex, unreadable expression. It was the same look that had haunted her during long sleepless nights, the look of someone who held a piece of her past that she wasn't ready to revisit. Victor's presence at the reunion was as unexpected as it was disquieting. Though the circumstances of their rivalry in the corporate world had wound down over time, the memory of their contentious confrontations remained etched in Elena's heart, a constant reminder of ambitions that clashed with personal values. Her heart pounded with a mixture of disbelief and latent anger. How could he, of all people, be here, mingling so casually amid the laughter and forgiving embraces? The realization struck her. Unresolved tensions were not easily confined to the boardroom, and the boundary between personal and professional reconciliation was more porous than she had ever imagined. Determined not to allow her feelings to overwhelm her, Elena took a deliberate breath and allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection in a secluded corner of the room. There, beneath the gentle light of a vintage lamp, she recalled the many hours spent poring over business strategies and the late-night negotiations that had left emotional scars. Every indecisive pause and every moment of self-doubt had shaped her into the person she was now, a woman, both scarred and resilient, harboring hopes for redemption not just in the realm of finance, but in the uncharted territories of family and love. In that hushed pause, the sound of distant laughter carried memories of simpler days, when misunderstandings were solved with heartfelt conversations over a cup of tea, rather than ruthless power plays. It was a time before ambition had drawn dividing lines between kin and adversary, before the stakes of business had blurred the lines between love and rivalry. The reunion was meant to be a celebration of heritage, a moment to reclaim a shared past while healing the fissures that success and ambition had created. As the night progressed, Elena found herself reluctantly embracing interactions that stirred old wounds. She exchanged polite, measured words with relatives who had once been confidants, all while the vibrant energy of the evening masked the underlying currents of unresolved discord. Every shared anecdote, every wistful pause that followed a familiar story, wove the intricate fabric of a past that was as unpredictable as it was cherished. Occasionally, under the warm glow of candlelight, her eyes would inadvertently meet Victor's from across the room. The unspoken exchanges between them were a potent mix of regret, defiance, and a hint of something unexpected, a spark that resonated with memories of both collision and quiet admiration. The intensity in those fleeting looks hinted at unresolved chapters that extended beyond the realm of business negotiations. Elena could not help but wonder if the chance encounter was a deliberate twist of fate, blurring the line between enmity and the possibility of a partnership founded on mutual understanding. This collision of worlds, the personal and the professional, left her both unsettled and enthralled. Later in the night, as the family gathered around a long, polished dining table laden with traditional dishes and spiced delicacies, Elena found a moment's reprieve. The clinking of glasses and the soft hum of conversation provided a temporary shield from the internal battle waging within her. Amid the convivial clamor, an uncle's gentle remark about the passage of time evoked memories of shared laughter and quiet evenings, restoring within her a fragile sense of belonging. But even as these tender moments surfaced, the duality of her existence was never far away. There, in the delicate interplay of light and shadow, lay the promise of both reconciliation and confrontation. As the evening wound down and the family slowly moved outdoors to the moonlit garden, Elena's thoughts became a tapestry woven from threads of nostalgia and future possibility. She pondered the delicate balance between preserving cherished memories and stepping forward into a realm where old rivalries might be redefined. The reunion, with its bittersweet energy, had ignited a slow-burning spark within her, a spark of hope that perhaps the painful interplay of past and present could lead to a resolution that honored both her aspirations and her attachments. In that poignant twilight, as soft music mingled with the gentle rustling of leaves, Elena committed silently to face the unresolved conflicts head-on. In her heart, she recognized that today was not just a reunion of people, but a convergence of stories, ambitions, and unspoken truths waiting to be rewritten. With every lingering glance at Victor, every shared smile with a long-missed family member, she felt the inevitable pull of destiny, a force that promised both personal healing and the potential to transform bitter rivalry into something new and unexpected. Chapter 2. The Alliance of Hearts. The grand ballroom was aglow with a cautious optimism that seemed to mirror the protagonist's internal state. Every crystal chandelier shimmered like fragments of broken trust pieced together anew, as if to signal that what was fractured could indeed be made whole. Cassandra, whose hard-won resilience was etched across her furrowed brow, moved through the room with deliberate grace. Tonight was not merely another business gathering, it was the renewal of a once turbulent alliance, one that had seen both fierce conflict and bitter betrayal. Despite the palpable professional excitement, an undercurrent of vulnerability pulsed beneath her composed exterior. At the center of the event, where polished glass and whispered negotiations mingled, stood Lucas. Once Cassandra's most formidable adversary, Lucas now exuded the dual nature of conflict and charm that could disarm even the most guarded hearts. His tailored suit and measured smile were testaments to a man who had weathered storms, and learned that sometimes the fiercest battles paved the way for the most unexpected partnerships. The air around him was charged with deliberate intensity, and as soon as Cassandra's eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement passed between them, a confrontation of the past, mixed with a tentative hope for a future that could redeem them both. The announcement of the alliance renewal sent a ripple of murmured approval through the room, and Cassandra found herself unexpectedly summoned into a discussion on mutual business ventures. The conversation quickly turned into a debate over subtle strategy and market dominance, a debate that her mind had once deemed the battleground for supremacy between her and Lucas. Yet this time, the stakes were different. It wasn't just about winning, it was about rebuilding, about finding strength in a partnership that could blend both conflict and cooperation. Lucas stepped forward, his tone both challenging and respectful. "Cassandra, you once said that there is no room for compromise in your vision of business," he remarked, his words laced with both a playful tease and a genuine inquiry. His eyes searched hers, trying to decode the guarded embers behind her determination. "Yet tonight I propose we consider a shared vision, a partnership that might just set the standard for industry excellence." The assertion hung in the air, sparking a mixture of irritation and intrigue. Cassandra's fingers absently touched the pendant that had been her silent talisman during dark hours, reminding her of battles fought and lessons learned. "Lucas, I've always believed that clarity comes from unwavering resolve," that said. "If there's a way to build something extraordinary, I intend to explore each suggestion, no matter how unconventional it might seem." Her retort was crisp, and as she spoke, she noticed a flicker of admiration in his eyes, an acknowledgement of her steadfast spirit that neither condescending disdain nor past hurts could easily erase. Their ensuing exchange evolved, layered with the texture of their shared history. What began as a heated discussion over contract particulars soon evolved into a subtle game of chess, where each argument revealed untold aspects of their inner selves. At one point, while dissecting the fiscal projections, a moment of unguarded vulnerability slipped out. Lucas revealed a personal setback, a misstep in a previous venture that had nearly cost him everything. "I learned then that strength isn't merely about winning," he admitted, his voice softened with sincerity. "But sometimes, admitting your fears leads to the bravest decisions." Cassandra felt an undeniable spark inside her, a delicate warmth breaking through the frost of past animosity. The guarded walls that had protected her heart for so long now quivered, tempted to let down their defenses. Against the sound of toasts and clinking of glasses, an almost whispered conversation emerged where the professional mingled with the personal. They spoke not just of quarterly earnings and market share, but of moments when pressure lifted, revealing truths that had been long concealed beneath corporate armor. Her voice, usually edged with determination, wavered as she posed a question that was both pragmatic and personal. "Have you ever found that in the midst of all this, you long for something more authentic than these agreements?" That question, simple and disarming, seemed to resonate with Lucas. In his steady gaze, Cassandra detected an unspoken admission, a shared longing for a life less defined by cold numbers and rigid contracts. "Every day," he confessed quietly, leaning in as if to ensure his words were meant solely for her ears. "Behind every report and every deadline, our hearts beat the same desire for honesty and connection." Time, marked by the ebb and flow of professional commitments, began to slow as their conversation deepened. Each report, each pause, and every smile that flickered across their faces was charged with an intimacy that belied the earlier tension. The initial antagonism, once a barrier guarding competing ambitions, transformed into something potent, a bridge constructed out of shared hardships and the yearning for redemption. In the carefully sanitized language of business strategies, the two were renegotiating the terms of an unspoken alliance, a merging of hearts that had been too stubborn to admit its own vulnerability. As the evening wore on, strategic presentations yielded to quieter moments where soft laughter and subtle flirtations enriched their interaction. Shadows danced on the walls as groups dispersed into more secluded corners of the ballroom. There, amidst hushed exchanges and a backdrop of twinkling lights, Cassandra and Lucas found themselves in the rare luxury of solitude. With the clamor of obligatory praise momentarily behind them, the edges of their gritty histories softened. Cassandra's eye caught Lucas's as he admitted, with an almost imperceptible smile, "I used to think that every move was a calculated risk. Now, I find that sometimes, the best decisions are the ones made with the heart rather than the ledger." In that shared silence, a new truth was born. Beyond the strictures of past rivalry and meticulous strategy, lay a connection that defied logic. As they exchanged meaningful glances, the unspoken promise of collaboration transcended professional necessity to become a mutual pledge of trust. A tentative hand brushed against the other, a gesture innocent in its touch yet loaded with implications of a deeper, uncharted intimacy. The night, filled with the sound of renewed commitments and soft confessions, had become a turning point. In those fleeting moments, the alliance had evolved into something more than a business arrangement. It was rapidly becoming an alliance of hearts. Even as the official agenda resumed and the event drew to a close, the impact of their encounter lingered long after the last toast. Cassandra departed with more than just new contracts and strategic plans. She carried with her the realization that sometimes the fiercest rivals held the key to unlocking the truest parts of ourselves. With each step away from the grand ballroom, she felt the stirrings of change, a quiet revolution that whispered of a future where trust, vulnerability, and unexpected passion might just pave the way for healing and hope. Chapter 3. Breaking Walls, Building Bridges. The old family hall, bathed in summer dusk, buzzed with tension as Elena faced decades of family resentments. This peacemaking event forced her to confront fears about belonging and a legacy of expectations binding her. The heavy wooden table became an altar for exposing and healing old wounds. As relatives spoke, revisiting injuries with raw honesty, the air thickened with sorrow and hope. Childhood quarrels and secret betrayals resurfaced, yet Elena sensed the possibility of dismantling emotional walls. Each voice was a piece of the family mosaic, both unnerving and comforting. Away from the crowd, Elena grappled with vulnerability. For years, she believed detachment was her shield. But subtle nudges, a trembling voice, a tearful sibling, stirred a yearning for change. She recognized the transformative potential of opening up to both joy and pain. The veranda door swung open, drawing attention to Adrian, her former rival. His glare, once contemptuous, now held regret and a silent plea for forgiveness. The rivalry had left scars, but tonight something shifted, hinting at redemption. Stepping into the night air, their silence was tense. Adrian's once determined face showed vulnerability, while Elena's composure faltered. Their sparse dialogue evolved into confessions. Adrian admitted his opposition was a misguided shield against fear. Elena revealed her defensive walls were a prison. In fleeting moments, years of rivalry dissolved into shared truth. Snide remarks and arguments faded against human frailty. A simple gesture, Adrian brushing away a tear, began to crumble Elena's defenses. Time seemed to pause as their eyes locked, a silent testament to abandoning enmity for something fragile and beautiful. Their kiss was a profound declaration that past barriers could be overcome, proving healing possible through vulnerability. Their kiss, intense and full of unspoken apologies, became an emblem of reconciliation, marking a new chapter for them and the family. The balcony's cool breeze mingled with their warmth, witnessing the transformation. Inside, the family thawed too. Defensive conversations leaned toward understanding. Elena's vulnerability rippled outward, inspiring others to revisit unresolved hurts. Walls of misunderstanding crumbled, replaced by empathy. As the night closed, Elena stood by a window, feeling resolution's lingering taste. Every ending paved the way for a new beginning. She realized strength lay in bridges connecting distant hearts. The family had taken a decisive step toward healing. The passionate kiss and evening's tumult resonated long after the reunion. It was a night of honesty, transformation, and the promise of a better tomorrow, where breaking barriers meant building bridges of understanding and love. Chapter 4. United Horizons. The morning light spilled gently through the expansive glass walls of the newly renovated boardroom, a symbolic setting for a meeting that marked both the rebirth of a great business alliance and the gentle mending of long-held familial rifts. Today, the protagonist, once embattled by personal turmoil and delicate family discord, sat at the polished mahogany table with a quiet strength that belied the emotional storms of the past. Across from her, the person once seen as a rival now exuded an air of calm confidence, standing as a steadfast partner in ventures that promised fresh beginnings. In the heart of this reunion, every handshake and exchanged word carried the weight of reconciled differences. The former opponent, whose countenance had once been etched with suspicion and guarded intentions, now offered a sincere smile. The meeting progressed with deliberate care, discussion flowing not only around profit and strategy, but also touching on visions for a future defined by trust and mutual respect. This renewal was more than a business decision. It was a personal statement, a declaration that the past harsh lessons had given way to a more expansive perspective on reconciliation and growth. Outside the boardroom, in a sun-dappled garden where laughter now replaced silence, the protagonist's family gathered with an air of shared contentment and hope. The once fragmented family circle had slowly reassembled around the promise of unity. Each member contributed humble stitches to the fabric of reconnection, exchanging stories and soft smiles as old grievances melted away. As they sat together on cushioned benches under the vast sky, memories of past conflicts were replaced by the gentle hum of unity and understanding. Conversations flowed as freely as the spring breeze, a mosaic of moments that reflected hard-won peace and the promise of future celebrations. Amid this newfound serenity, the protagonist was not alone. Her love interest, an unwavering presence through the tempest of change, sat by her side. Their closeness was marked by affectionate glances and subtle gestures that spoke volumes of a bond forged in adversity. No longer burdened by misgivings that once haunted her, she embraced the quiet assurance that love, in its deepest form, could mend even the most fragile scars. Their conversations, once punctuated by hesitations, now resonated with the unforced cadence of intimacy. It whispered dreams of starting anew, envisioning a shared future where each day was built on mutual support and unwavering commitment. As the day unfolded, both the business and familial resolutions echoed the same message, a tale of transformation where old boundaries blurred in the face of genuine connection. In one memorable moment, the protagonist took a short walk with her love interest along a winding garden path, the gentle rustle of leaves accompanying their discussion. They spoke of ambitions and aspirations, intertwining their personal growth with the shared triumph of overcoming obstacles. This conversation, delicate yet determined, set the tone for the transformation that had taken place, not just in the boardroom or the family circle, but in the depths of their hearts. Later that afternoon, as twilight began to cast its soft glow upon the horizon, the newly strengthened partners from the business meeting joined the family gathering for an impromptu celebration. In the background, a gentle melody played on an acoustic guitar, weaving through the air like a tangible testament to the beauty of moving forward. With every toast raised in the warm, fading light of day, it was clear that resentment had given way to optimism, and that every setback had been an essential part of building a future rooted in unity. In a moment that would be remembered by all, the protagonist rose to speak. Her voice retained a gentle authority as she recounted the journey they had all shared, each hardship, every confrontation, every moment of vulnerability that had led them to this point of healing and shared belief in a better tomorrow. She spoke not with grandiloquence, but with a thoughtful candor that touched everyone present. There was a sense of liberation in her words. She articulated that past conflicts were but stepping stones to understanding, that every battle conquered and every wall dismantled had been necessary to build the bridges they now admired. Her words resonated, forging a collective promise of not only business success, but a life enriched by trust, respect, and endless possibilities. Listening intently, her love interest squeezed her hand, silently pledging continued support and a future of shared dreams. Their eyes met, and in that gaze lay the promise of a love resilient enough to overcome all doubts. It was a quiet vow, a promise to remember the distance traversed to arrive at this moment, and to nurture the path ahead with honesty and dedication. Evening unfolded with soft laughter, tender embraces, and thoughtful conversation. Old wounds slowly transformed into cherished lessons, and the implications of the renewed business alliance rippled outward, reinforcing the idea that healing was an ongoing process nurtured from within. Together, they looked to a horizon not defined by past errors, but illuminated by the dawning promise of united endeavors. As the night deepened, everyone gathered around an outdoor fire pit. Sparks danced upward, paralleling the flickers of hope in every heart. With a soft, ambient light casting playful shadows, the atmosphere was filled with anticipation and warmth. Here, the protagonist, flanked by family and her trusted partner, felt a quiet certainty that the future, though always uncertain, was bright, abundant, and filled with the promise of togetherness. New plans began to take shape, forged by a collective vision of prosperity and love. In that serene final scene, the gentle sound of a distant train and a warm night breeze reminded everyone of the continuous journey life represented. There was no dramatic explosion of revelations, just a steady, reliable progression towards a future where personal ambition intertwined seamlessly with communal well-being. The chapter closed on this note of unity, a promise to nurture the bonds they had rebuilt and to move forward as one resilient family, an inspired team, and two souls bound by an unshakable love. With hearts uplifted and burdens shared, the characters embrace the truth that every ending is merely the threshold of a new beginning. Their united horizons stretched out abundantly before them, inviting them to trust again, love again, and build a life where every delicate promise was honored with unwavering commitment. In the luminous reflection of firelight and the soft murmur of heartfelt laughter, hope and unity found their